Alright guys, West Ham and Man City just played out an absolute thriller, 2-2 draw. It is finished. And it's, as a Liverpool fan, it's difficult to say how I feel about this because before the game, if you'd have offered me Man City dropping 2 points, I'd have bitten your hand off. However, considering the circumstances, West Ham being 2-0 up at half time, it's a little bit disappointing, I guess. You'd have hoped like maybe they could like cling on to a 2-1 or something, and also they did have a couple of chances of their own to put the game beyond doubt. But the first half, it was just the perfect game plan from David Moyes and West Ham. With Man City obviously missing some important defensive players in Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz. Well, John Stones wouldn't be playing, would he? But he's missing as well. West Ham played on the counter attack, and it just works superbly. Zinchenko, he's a good player going forward, but he's not the most defensively adept. So every time they got the ball to like Fornals or Lanzini, it was constantly, can we get the ball over the top to either Mikel Antonio or Jarrod Bowen? In both instances, it was Jarrod Bowen. The first one was just a superb ball from Pablo Fornals to get it over to Jarrod Bowen, and Bowen took it round Edison and managed to just about get it in from a really tight angle. It was a good finish. And the second one, nice ball through again from Mikel Antonio. Bowen holds it up a little bit, waits for Fernandinho to come for some reason, and then manages to get it through his legs. And obviously, when the ball goes through the defender's legs, it's always slightly harder for the keeper to react because, they're unsure, is it going to take a deflection? So yeah, 2-0 up at half time. And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting West Ham to keep a clean sheet. I was expecting Man City to score at least once in the second half. However, I'd hoped that West Ham could have held on a little bit longer than they actually did. Jack Grealish managed to get the goal early on, and he had quite a poor first half, to be honest. Grealish, I'm still unsure about this transfer with Grealish to City because there's two sides to the argument, obviously. With one, he's not as suited to the system as a player like Raheem Sterling is, but also there is also the argument that you need different players in your squads. You need players who can do different things to, if your game plan's not working, you can change it up a bit with like half an hour to go. But it just doesn't seem to work in the big games when Jack Grealish plays. That's just my opinion. But he managed to get a goal back at the start of the second half, and it was slightly fortunate. The shot was probably going to be saved by Fabianski, but it took a deflection off Craig Dawson and just sort of skidded off the surface into the centre, slightly to the left of the goal. And there was a similar moment in the first half to that, actually. I think it might have been Rodri who took the shot. It was going to be saved by Fabianski, the initial shot, but it took a deflection off Dawson again in exactly the same way, squeezed between like his angled shin and the ground, and just about like flicked up over the bar. And yeah. And West Ham, they had chances in the second half. But Bowen had a volley which was deflected wide. Mikel Antonio had probably the chance of the half for West Ham when Fernandinho played an absolutely awful back pass without looking. Antonio got onto it. Edison did really well, though, to come out early and sort of force Antonio into a decision. Do I try and chip Edison, or do I cut inside and maybe lay it off to Jarrod Bowen, who was in quite a lot of space? Antonio went for the chip. I'm not sure if he saw Bowen, and it wasn't the greatest attempt ever. It was a few yards wide. It wasn't like it went into the side netting or anything. So he probably should have done a bit better there, Antonio. But to be honest, I think if you're a West Ham fan, you can't be that angry at Antonio today. He absolutely ran his socks. I've mixed up two phrases there. Worked his socks off up front, leading the line. Didn't give any of the Man City defenders a moment's peace. And yeah, City got the equaliser through an own goal, actually. A really good free kick. I think it was De Bruyne who took it, I'm not 100% sure. He put it in a perfect area where it's terrible for defenders to deal with, because they don't know who's behind them, so they think they've got to get a bit like a touch on it to deflect it away from the attacker. But Kufal, or if he's going to get a touch on it, the only thing he can do is divert it into his own net, and thus he did, which made it 2-2. And then 5 minutes to go, Craig Dawson took down Gabriel Jesus. The ref didn't give it initially, but on a VAR check, in my opinion, correctly overturned it. Like, Dawson has sort of he hasn't stuck a leg out fully, but he's Jesus knocked the ball past him, and he's put his knee he hasn't fully outstretched his leg, but it's enough to knock Jesus over, I think. And Mahrez stepped up to take it, and there was a small part of me that thought, I've seen Mahrez miss penalties before. I've got a feeling Fabianski might pull something out the bag here. And he did. It wasn't a bad penalty by any means. It was a fantastic save more than anything. And that kept it at 2-2. Of course, for West Ham, like, the moments of the match, other than Bowen's goals, was Mark Noble coming on for the final 15 minutes of his... I was going to say his West Ham career, but it's not his West Ham career because there's a game next week yet. But his final 15 minutes in the home stadium, I was going to say Upton Park, but they don't play at Upton Park anymore either. But yeah, final 15 minutes in front of the home fans. And I mean, you know, he didn't put a foot wrong, but he didn't, you know, do anything spectacular. So, you know, he had his moment. But yeah, what this game does now change is that the Premier League is now very unlikely to be decided by goal difference. For that to happen, I think Liverpool would have to win one of their remaining games and draw the other. So they've got Wolves and Southampton. And then City would have to lose against Aston Villa for it to come down to goal difference. And I think if you're betting on that to happen, you would get very good odds. So I don't think that's going to happen. It's more likely to be, if it's going to come down to like really, really close, it's going to be Liverpool beat Southampton on Tuesday, which I'm not saying is going to happen. I'm just going to say if it's to be close, that's what's going to happen. Then obviously on the final day, if that does happen, there's a point between City and Liverpool. If Liverpool beat Wolves, City, then it just comes down to City have to match Liverpool's result, or failing that, better it if Liverpool don't beat Wolves. Yeah, and then City have won the title. So yeah, it's still not over, and I think today was a chance to pretty much put it like beyond Liverpool for City, especially with that Mahrez penalty, and I think they have failed to do that. So you don't want to go into the final day of the season knowing that you need to win. That's not the ideal situation for Man City, but that is reality for them now. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.